Welcome to Made in Montgomery. I'm your host, Susan Kennedy. Montgomery County is often referred to as the economic engine of the state of Maryland. A healthy, diverse business economy here sets us apart from counties across the nation. In this show, we take a look at some of the businesses, large and small, that keep the engine chugging here. It might not seem unusual that a Bethesda native who graduated from Whitman High and Virginia Tech would decide to come back to this area to start their career. But in this next story, we'll introduce you to a young man who did just that, but took a different path than most. Set back off River Road in Poolsville on 34 bucolic acres in the county's Ag Reserve is Rockland's Farm. But this farm is nothing like the farms you see in children's storybooks. 28-year-old Greg Glenn is the man running Rockland's Farm. He spent most of his life in Bethesda, but then in 2003 his family moved to the farm. After graduating from Virginia Tech in 2009, he and a friend pitched the idea of running a farm business to Glenn's father. Not something that was really on his radar in college, but there was one desire he couldn't shake.
A passion to feed people and to nourish people, a passion for kind of a local, robust food economy or food shed, and then just a desire to get into the soil, like what is of the earth, and being a part of that is really powerful because we live in a world of plastic, a lot of plastic things, and very electronic, very detached, and so there's something that is just very beautiful and romantic about being in the soil.
Yeah.
You know, but you're so close to the city, but it's still very peaceful.
Glenn is the new face of farming here in Montgomery County and across the nation. As older generation farmers retire, their young counterparts are entering the trade with the appetite of bringing their customers a little closer to where their food comes from.
I think people just really want an honest connection for where their food comes from, who grew it, even to why it was grown or how it was grown. I think people just have a really genuine care about that, and they just want to be a part of that.
You know, when we look back in our past history, we know that all of our foods were grown locally and produced. We used to go to farmers markets. We used to go to those local stands and get the fresh produce and then prepare that for our meals. You know, we didn't shop at grocery stores as much for those kinds of things. And so I think it's important for us to get back to that. It really is along the lines of the healthy mantra that we're certainly seeing not only throughout our Montgomery County region, but also nationwide.
Though Glenn's degree in agricultural economics from Virginia Tech didn't teach him how to run a farm, he's gained a lot of knowledge from the internet, other farmers, and from people like Jeremy Chris, who has worked his entire career here promoting the viability of agriculture in Montgomery County.
One of the challenges with the direct marketing folks that are wanting to grow table food crops is access to land. Land is so expensive here in the county. Trying to lease land sometimes, you need to have a special relationship between the farmer and the landlord.
With that in mind, the county recently started its new farmer pilot program where interested farmers are put in contact with landowners who have agreed to at least a 5-year lease. The participants must have already demonstrated they know how to grow food. Last year was the first growing season for this new crop of county farmers. And Chris says the program is just another way the county is working to attract farmers from the region to put roots down here.
We have a lot to be proud of, and I really feel that we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for the leaders that help us.
And Greg Glenn agrees with that assessment. He lives on the farm, which is owned by his parents, with his wife Anna and their 2-year-old son Fritz. They will welcome another baby this fall. At any given time, there are about 10 people working at the farm, tending the animals, raising vegetables, and growing grapes for their newest endeavor, a vineyard that was started by his father and is now becoming a big draw for the farm. They also handle events like weddings there.
And that's what Rockland's is all about. They've got a lot of diverse operations that they're doing there, including the on-site farm market, the winery. So they've got a lot of interesting things going on there.
The opportunity for young farmers or beginning farmers There is a lot of people in Montgomery County that are either health conscious or have provided a little bit larger amount within their food budget to afford some more of the local food, or people who are just curious about it. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to provide for the many people, not only in Montgomery County, but just in the local area.
The crew at Rockland's Farm is serious about its commitment to nourishing the community. Each month, they take a dinner to Stepping Stone Shelter in Rockville, and the farm also offers CSA memberships, with both Glenn and Chris say are in high demand.
That's an extremely effective business model, especially for smaller farms. We had about 20 members when we started, and now we have 42. It's such a great way to connect with our customers.
More and more people want to know where their food is coming from, and we're also seeing a greater appreciation of the residents that live down county and trying to understand where the ag community is, where their food is coming from, and developing relationships with farmers.
Rockland's uses natural techniques that makes the farm its own ecosystem. They rotate their fields on a regular basis after those fields have been grazed. The manure that is left serves as natural fertilizer. The hogs at the farm eat food from manna food that would otherwise be thrown away, as well as grains from some local breweries. Caring for the land that Glenn cultivates is a big part of who he is as a farmer.
So that's the vision, you know, for us to be stewards of creation, is that not only our kids and grandkids, but the generations that we'll never meet would have that opportunity to have, you know, fertile land to derive a lifestyle and a career and derive value from. And so that's how we want to be stewards of the soil.
And the bottom line for Rockland's Farm? Though the initial startup costs were high, Glenn says they are growing at the rate he expected. As is the case for many farmers, making a living from selling food is tough, but at Rockland's, it's a balance.
And I wouldn't say that there's one is more or less important than the other. I think they work well together to balance that financial, the environmental, and the social aspects of what we're doing. So rather than prioritizing, really keeping them in balance.
To learn more about Rockland's Farm, you can visit their website at rocklandsfarm.com. Animals play a big role in so many of our lives. There are plenty of businesses and organizations around Montgomery County that cater to animals, but there was one in the Up County that caught our attention. The Wilson Parrot Foundation was started over a decade ago in order to rescue and rehabilitate any parrots whose owners could not properly care for them. We paid the foundation a visit to learn more about their mission to help these feathered creatures. When you pull up to the home of Brian Wilson on Ridge Road in Damascus, it looks like any other house in the community. But upon entering, you might feel like you're in an Amazonian forest. Oh my gosh, look at that blue one.
This is a Eclectus parrot. It's one of the most expensive ones out there.
But really, it's the Wilson Parrot Foundation, where neglected and abused parrots are rescued and rehabilitated.
Hello.
When he was 6 years old, Wilson's parents took him to an exotic bird show in Florida.
Sing opera?
The birds were all in cages, and it was at that moment Brian Wilson decided he would one day have a parrot of his own.
Comb my hair for me? Comb my hair.
By the age of 29, he owned 3 birds. After retiring from the Montgomery County Fire Department in 1995, Wilson took the birds on the road and made public appearances to promote fire safety.
I looked up, wham!
Then, after suffering devastating injuries in a car accident later that year,
Woke up 2 months later.
oh wow,
I was totally paralyzed.
it was his birds that gave him the will to walk and talk again.
And they started talking. And I kept trying to say what they were saying. And all of a sudden it popped out of my mouth. One word, well then it clicked 2 or 3 other words. And within 7 or 8 months, people could understand me, I could talk. Well, then during that 8-month period, I had to learn to walk again. I had to take care of my babies.
So now Brian Wilson gives back to these birds who rehabilitated him by fostering them and finding each one a new home. So would you say that these birds have saved you since your first accident?
They absolutely did. I would be in a nursing home, not talking anymore, and a 2-year-old in a wheelchair in a nursing home.
Today, the foundation is home to dozens of birds of various varieties. Brian Wilson says he frequently has to turn away people who want to give up their birds.
I really wish I could take them in. I just can't take anymore. You know, I just can't.
And to be able to adopt one of his feathered creatures, there are expectations.
So I won't adopt any birds out unless they're at least 30. And if I know that they're going to have children after 30, I don't let them have it. And for them to adopt a bird from here, they have to volunteer 3 to 6 months prior to, because I want them to prove to me that the bird will in fact love them more than me. I've brought them all around to being happy birds, and I want them to stay that way.
Brian Wilson is a bird whisperer of sorts. When greeting his birds, he makes sure he gives each one a kiss.
Give me a kiss. You give them love, they'll give you love back tenfold.
Aww. His mission is to teach the public about having parrots as pets and how to properly provide for them. The Wilson Parrot Foundation is a nonprofit organization and is run strictly by volunteers. And you rely solely on volunteers here.
Volunteers and donations. That's Pickle.
That's Pickle. It would be Wilson's dream to eventually have a farm so he wouldn't have to turn any birds away.
What we do before anything else is done, volunteers, we have to keep the place spotless. All the volunteers are mopping, they're pressure washing, and they're playing with the birds. Number 2, they have to get all the fresh fruits and vegetables and pellets. Let them eat, then they can play with them. Once they come here on a regular basis, they see the love and joy that they can give you.
It's tough to resist the beautiful creatures. Though a little resistant at first, I'm a little scared. Wilson convinced our videographer, that's hilarious, and myself to let the feathered critters perch on our arms. You're so pretty. She said thank you. And other various parts of our bodies. She's really light. A setback in his recovery has prevented Brian Wilson from taking his birds on the road to raise funds for his organization.
Since the accident 2.5 years ago, I lost a lot of use that I had on my right side.
But that's not stopping him.
Hey girl, give me a kiss.
This Birdman of Damascus says he is committed to helping parrots lead healthier, happier lives.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The Wilson Parrot Foundation is always looking for volunteers and donations. You can inquire about those opportunities by visiting their website, wilsonparrotfoundation.org. That's all we have time for this edition of Made in Montgomery. For County Cable Montgomery, I'm Susan Kennedy. Thanks for watching.
Montgomery County wants to thank everyone for their commitment to recycling. We're recycling 57% of our waste, and we know you'll work with us to reduce waste and recycle even more, 70% by 2020. To protect the environment and save valuable natural resources for the future, we need to recycle all of our paper, cans, bottles, containers, scrap metal, and more. Because if you don't get serious about recycling at work now, it's going to come back and bite us.
Montgomery County wants to thank everyone for their commitment to recycling. Together, we're recycling 57% of our waste, and we know you'll work with us to reduce waste and recycle more, 70% by 2020. To protect the environment and provide a better future for our children, we need to recycle all of our paper, cans, bottles, containers, scrap metal, and more. Because if you don't get serious about recycling at your apartment or condominium now, it's going to come back and bite us.